Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say I have tremendous respect for Mr. Malik because of what happened to him and how...
Malik, I could be Malik for you. I like that, yeah.
And how well he overcome
Malik,
it.
bro.
You know, how well he overcome it. A lot of people, once they get something happen like that to them, they start to hate the white people.
Yeah.
When you don't realize when you cut your skin, we all bleed the same color.
Yeah.
And we all have the same God.
Thank you. Thank you. My next guest plays Sammy on Days of Our Lives. Allison Sweeney has become one of the most popular teen actresses on television today. In fact, she's been so evil this year that she's been nominated for a Soap Opera Award for Outstanding Villainess. Welcome, Allison. Allison, you old bad girl, you. So, golly, it must be really cool having such a great job as a teenager.
Well, I really love it, yeah. I've been on the show for 3 years, so I started, you know, as a baby in the family. I was 16 and everyone sort of treated me like their little sister and their daughter and everything, and I'm growing up now and my storyline's been changing a lot, so they can't really look at me like that anymore, but it's definitely fun.
You know, you have dealt with some really heavy issues. Your character has been bulimic. Your character was pregnant.
That's right. She's been raped.
She's been raped.
She watched her mother having an affair with another man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, some amazing things have happened to my character in the last 3 years.
Are those situations coming from real life that you guys get them from, or is there something you're trying to teach teenagers? I mean, how does it?
Well, now, I have to tell you that I don't really know where the writers come up with these, but I know that a lot of them, like the bulimia storyline, was a very topical issue, and they wanted to make sure that it was addressed with a very educated background. I mean, I know that they investigated a lot about it, and I certainly did. And they do try to teach a lesson, even though my character is a villain and she's not always doing the right thing. They are trying to make sure that the message does get across, that you shouldn't always follow my character's path, but it is informing people of what goes on in the real world. I mean, you know, we try to teach them that, you know, kids aren't alone in their problems and their troubles. You know, if you're date raped, it is not your fault, and if you are have an eating disorder of any kind, it isn't your fault, and there are other people out there like you. So they do try to teach a storyline, even though it does sometimes go to extremes. It is to show that you're not alone and that there are other people out there who are suffering.
Now, you know how steamy those soap operas can get sometimes.
That's true.
How do y'all deal with the SEX word?
The SEX word? What's that?
Spell it out.
Spell it out.
Well, for my character, for example, she's in love with this guy. So it's making love. And just because she had to drug him does not mean that she didn't really mean it. No, she did. She tried to seduce him twice and failed, and then ended up drugging him and then sort of snuck into his bed. So it depends on what you mean by how do we deal with it. In terms of this,
like a sneak.
Like an old villainess.
That's right.
So I'm just trying to think what message that you think that we need to know about teenagers, because you're appealing to teenagers. You have a tremendous teenage audience and one yourself. So what do you think is important to?
Well, when I first started on the show, it amazed me, like you were saying, that there are, you know, 12-year-olds, 13, and all the way. I mean, every age is watching this show, and our appeal is that we have actors and actresses playing all different aged roles, and for my storylines appeal to mothers of teenagers or parents of teenagers, and we try to communicate that well, I don't know, that you shouldn't be afraid to discuss what's going on in life, I guess, and that everything is possible and anything can happen, and we just try to get the issues out there, especially in my character. We try to get, you know, making love and sex out there, and we try to get it talked about.
Yes, ma'am. Come on, stand up.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Trisha. How you doing?
Hi.
I believe it's not the color, it's not the person, it's just plain wickedness. People are wicked, and it's true, it's hate and love. And once you get out the skin and you get out, it's just plain wickedness. You have to look at them and just be like, you know, that's it. Because if you interact with them and you carry on, that's what you're carrying. That's all you're doing. You're not benefiting yourself. Just as long as they don't touch you and they're not hurting all your children, or however that's, you know, however this situation may be, wickedness is wickedness. You can't do anything about it.
What do you think are the top issues that teens need to be talking about and concerned about today?
I think sex and producing life and bringing more life here instead of us sitting here. I can be 19, 16, 15, 14 and have a child with me, you know, and I'm actually the child that's forcing myself to be a mommy. you know, and it's really hard.
That is a tough thing, because I could imagine being a teen. It's so tough. Your hormones are bouncing all over the place. Television is throwing sex, sex, movies, sex, sex, and you're trying to figure out how you can still be responsible and still embrace your sexuality and all of those things. It's got to be tough for you.
That was one of the main issues, is when I first started the teen mom storyline. I mean, being pregnant for you know, I guess only 6 or 7 months, but that's not the point. It was hard, because at first I sort of was sucked into the euphoria of being a mom, and you know, even though it's just a character, you really do sort of live in this dream world, and you're not really thinking about. And all of a sudden, I was doing the labor scenes, and all of a sudden I realized, here's this, you know, 18-year-old girl, and she's going to be a mom. And when the kid's sick, you know, you don't get to just say, oh, I don't feel like being responsible. You have to get up, and you're the only one there. You're the kid's mom. You have to get up in the middle of the night and take care of it and clean it and change it and feed it, and there's just no one else. It's your job.
That's right.
And people, you tend to get sucked into a euphoria, and you don't really think about it, and then all of a sudden it just comes crashing down on you. And I mean, it even did for me, and it was just a character. It just came all of a sudden. There it was. Oh my gosh, she's a mom.
Let's bring Sari Locker into this conversation. She's the host of Late Date with Sari. Sari, thanks for being with us. That on your show, you deal with a lot of talk about sex as it pertains to teenagers. What are you hearing? What's important that we talk about?
First of all, let me say that whenever I talk about sex, I talk about it in a very realistic way. And while teens do see lots of characters on television that are, well, like Allison's character, who had sex unprotected, who got pregnant and became a teen mom, if we look at the realities of a young woman like Allison, you've never been pregnant, you haven't had a child, you're a successful young actress, you're doing a lot of things right. Or even I think about myself as an example. I started teaching teenagers about sex when I was 18. I started college at age 16. Now I'm 25. With my own TV show, writing books, things like that.
So how
with
are
us as examples, I think teens can get a lot of messages that you can do things, you can empower yourself.
We just did our poll, and this is what our poll came out to show when we talked about sex. 18% of you here are virgins. 75% of you are sexually active. And 49% of you say you lost, 49% say you lost your virginity before the age of 15.
That's,
wow.
It's not too far off from national averages. We say, based on statistics, that about half of teenagers by the time they're 16 have lost their virginity. And almost 90% of people have had sex by the time they're 21. So it is these years when you all have to make the decisions about using birth control, about who's the right person to have sex with, about how sex affects the rest of your life, your relationships with your parents and your friends, too.
We asked about condom use, and we came up with this. 41% of you say you always use a condom. 37% of you say sometimes we use a condom. And 12% say never.
Well, I got to say something about that, especially the 12%. I wish that when I was a teenager, I had the information that's available now, because I'm 28. But 10 years ago, early 80s, we were right out of the 70s and 60s. I mean, and so, you know, I often think, you know, like how sad it is that the information wasn't available. So for those of you that fall in that 12%, you really need to check that, because I know teenagers who have died of AIDS or who have all kinds of other sexually transmitted diseases or children. And it's just not worth it. It feels good, yes. It really does feel good to have sex without, no, for real. That's what nature intended. You know, made from the best stuff on earth. Just like, that's what it is. But that latex, you know, you have to. You know, until, you know, and if you really feel that you want to have unprotected sex, then, you know, go see a doctor with your mate and do things responsibly. But to be irresponsible is whack.
When we come back, we're going to meet some very courageous teenagers who are fighting for their right to privacy. We'll explain that right after this.